Basic Brewing Radio is sponsored in part by the American Homebrewers Association. Up your IPA game with homebrewing techniques, craft beer clone recipes, and a free book from the American Homebrewers Association. Push your brews to the limits with Brewing Eclectic IPA by Dick Cantwell, or dive into science and history with IPA, brewing techniques, recipes, and the evolution of India Pale Ale by Mitch Steele. Join for 1 year and receive your choice from 60 different brewing books. Visit homebrewersassociation.org/basicbrewing for offer details. homebrewersassociation.org/basicbrewing. Welcome to Basic Brewing Radio for Thursday, May 25th, 2023. I'm James Spencer. Here at Basic Brewing Radio, we're all about home brewing. This week it's lagers in Chicago. Steve Wilkes, Greig McGill, and I sit down with Doug Hurst from Metropolitan Brewing to talk about beer culture in the Windy City and get some tips on brewing clean and delicious traditional lagers. If you want to support us financially, check out patreon.com/basicbrewing, and many thanks to everybody who's helping out that way. We can't go to places like Chicago without your support. And the support of our sponsors, of course. If you go to patreon.com/basicbrewing, you can see a long list of stuff that you can access if you sign up as a supporter. Financial supporters have already seen the video episode I'm going to release to the general public on Friday. It's featuring the delicious Dark Mild from our friend Matt Giovanisi of brewcabin.com. Matt sent us a video postcard of how he brewed that beer, along with some samples, of course. I have an empty keg now, and I'm very tempted to fill it up with that beer. It was really good. And financial supporters also get the recipe for that beer as well. It's about a month until HomebrewCon in San Diego. Hard to believe. It's almost here. Steve and I will be flying out there to hang out, sample great beers, and talk to the people who brew them. I lose track of how many of those we've been to. Our first was in Orlando, Florida, in 2006, and we haven't missed an in-person one since, and I have the collectible sample glasses to prove it, and hours and hours and hours of recordings. Let's take a quick look into the mailbag. Eric from Chepachet, Rhode Island, wrote after hearing me talk about using the steam juicer to make juice for a blackberry cream ale. Eric says, I've heard you mention a couple of times that you were disappointed with the yield from the frozen blackberries you used in your steam juicer. In the video, you showed that you started with 900 grams of frozen blackberries and ended up with 600 milliliters of 1033 juice. Eric says that's 620 grams of juice, which is a 69% yield by weight. Maybe because the blackberries are frozen, it made it look like you started with more than you thought, but that actually sounds like a pretty good yield to me, Eric says. After hearing and seeing the episode about steam juicing, I plan on getting a juicer myself this season. It sounds like it would let you get juice from things that might not juice well by other methods. That's true, according to Tim Lieber. Eric says, I'm already thinking of things like mangoes, melons, cucumbers, and even ginger. Oh, yeah. I can't wait to get my hands on one and try it for myself. Well, yeah, 69% yield sounds pretty good when you actually put the math to it. I feel a lot better about my yield, thanks to Eric's email. I guess it's because the blackberries are sort of fluffier than mulberries. They took up more space in the bag, so I was expecting more juice. I should have literally done the math. So I appreciate Eric writing in, and I hope that he keeps us posted on his steam juicing experience. Hey, very exciting news from our friends and sponsors at Imperial Yeast about their next featured hybrid yeast strain, I-10 Mangostini. Here's what Eben at Imperial says. Eben says our brewing scientists developed this new Saccharomyces cerevisiae strain by directing two unique strains through their idle sexual cycle via fungal sporulation isolating, resulting in a hybrid that is efficient and highly flavorful agent for fermentation. You remember Dr. Matt Winans last year, we talked to him at HomebrewCon, He walked us through this sort of natural hybridization process that they go through. Mangostini was developed for its excellent attenuation, prompt reduction of diacetyl, and versatility brewing a wide variety of ales and IPAs. It boasts a robust flavor profile of ripe tropical fruit, strawberry, and lychee that beautifully complements big hop additions. I-10 Mangostini will be available for purchase Friday, May 26th, that's tomorrow, with shipping starting the week of June 5th. It's worth noting that this strain is not a GMO product, says Eben. Boy, I'm looking forward to getting my hands on some I-10 Mangostini to brew at least one deliciously hoppy beer for the summertime. Ask your local homebrew store to stock up on I-10 Mangostini, available for order this Friday, May 26th, from Imperial. And check out all the fun and deliciously dependable strains on imperialyeast.com. That's imperialyeast.com. Now, let's go to a brewery where hops are not the featured ingredient. We gathered at Metropolitan Brewing to sample Ken Kazmierski's hot dog beer, but before we did that, we talked to Metropolitan's Doug Hurst about how he brews such deliciously clean, traditional lagers. Doug Hurst, welcome to Basic Brewing Radio.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
Where are we at?
This is Metropolitan Brewing in Chicago, right here on the Chicago River.
It's a beautiful location. There are a lot of people here, and we have special guests. First of all, we have to introduce Steve Wilkes.
Hey, James.
Who's sitting next to you? This is Greig McGill from New Zealand.
New Zealand.
Have you met Greig before?
I've met him. In fact, I may or may not have had a beer with him.
Greig, welcome.
Thanks, James. Awesome to be here.
And you were here because of this guy. Now, I'm going to bring you in momentarily just to say that you're here. Ken Kazmierski, I've had a beer. Ken Kazmierski, the hot dog beer brewer. You're the reason we're here.
Well, I'm glad that you're here, and I'm enjoying myself tremendously.
Now, why did you recommend Metropolitan?
I'm a member of the Chicago Homebrewers Group, and Metropolitan actually sort of like sponsors us. They have a table here for us once a month, and they provide us with glasses, ice. They let us drink our beer along with their beer, and it is a very hospitable place, and we really enjoy it. So when you said we wanted to meet up, this was the place I thought would be perfect.
See, it's all paying off, Doug.
There you go.
Why is it important for you to have a relationship with the local homebrewers?
Why? Because they know beer, they understand beer, they like beer, and I was a home brewer once.
There you go. Give us some background on Metropolitan and yourself as a brewer.
Sure. We've been around since 2007 here in Chicago. We started in a different location about 3 miles north of here, much smaller, 15-barrel system, and then moved into this location, which is much larger with a 30-barrel system and a tap room in 2017, 2016, and we've been going ever since. Our specialty is German-inspired lagers, so you won't find an IPA on tap here. There's lots of other breweries for that. We like to have a specialty, and for us it's lagers.
And is that common in the Chicagoland area?
Specialty breweries, not as much. There's a few. There's another lager brewery, Goldfinger, out in the suburbs, and our friends Dovetail north of here are lager specialists. I'd love to see a traditional British ale specialty brewery in Chicago. That'd be awesome. We don't really have one. There's lots of breweries doing American ales and all sorts of crazy things that are all really delicious. However, many breweries here.
Yeah, tell us about the brewery scene in Chicago. You know, how big is? I'm assuming that Chicago people like to drink beer.
Yes, I think they do. When we started in 2008, there were 3 breweries in the city, I think, maybe. Goose Island, they had a brew pub, and there was a Rock Bottom Brew Pub downtown, and Peace Brewery and Peace Brew Pub south of here, and that was it. There had been more in the 90s, but they were gone, and many people told us breweries can't exist in this city. When we started up, the Revolution Brewery started a few months after us, and Half Acre Beer Company had beer on the market, but they opened their actual brewery in Chicago a few months after us as well. And it was the three of us were the beginning of the new wave. And now I honestly can't tell you how many breweries there are in Chicago. There's a lot.
Yeah, it seems like, Greg might know more about the brew. You've done probably more research on the Chicago brewing scene than than we have. What's your impression? And you're the brewer, the owner of brewer at Brewocracy in Hamilton, New Zealand. Is that right? No.
No, you're exactly right.
You shook her head.
Oh, maybe it's a cultural thing. I don't know. Anyway. No, I've done a lot of research in Chicago, mainly because it was one of the first cities I used to visit regularly in the States back when I was working in IT rather than brewing. And when I got here, you mentioned Peace. I remember going there, and I had a friend show me around. She took me to Peace, Rock Bottom, and Goose Island, and Revolution had just opened. So I don't know how we managed to never make it to Metropolitan, but I'm glad we're rectifying that now. But yeah, I'm trying to count the breweries. We did Malt Row yesterday, and there were 6 of those. I only just survived. I couldn't tell you. Maybe 50 at least, I would say.
There are so many breweries now in Chicago that we have started brewery areas. So there's Malt Row, like you just mentioned, and that's where we used to be up in the north side. And now we have created here the Bermuda Triangle. There's 3 of us in sort of a triangle configuration here. Ravinia Brewing, Maplewood Brewing, and Metropolitan, all within walking distance. So we just did a collab brew with all 3, and we're going to be releasing that in a couple weeks here as a kickoff the Bermuda Triangle party.
We had a very delicious dark mild at Maplewood just before walking over here. It was really, really good.
Oh yeah, I can still taste it. I don't want it to go away.
Well, maybe we can wash some of that away. What beer should we start with here, Doug?
I would suggest we've got 3 beers here that I poured out of many that we serve. The first one, which should be on your left, is our Pilsner called Flywheel Pilsner. It's actually, I believe, the first beer we ever brewed, and we're still going strong today. We used to call it Bright Lager because I was afraid back then that nobody would know what a Pilsner was and that they would hate a Pilsner, even though when they drank it they would like it. But we changed that marketing a number of years ago once we realized people do know what Pilsners are, and they want to drink a Pilsner. Now we're in the lager era, apparently, and so any stigma to lagers seems to be disappearing a little bit.
It's really good. It's really nice, and it's got a nice malty backbone, but it's very crisp and clean, and just I could drink way too much of that. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, it's really refreshing. That's the thing I'm getting from it, and the malt. The malt really shines in this beer a bunch. So, yeah, man, this is the real deal.
Is this a beer that you could get inspiration from, Greg?
Oh yeah, I mean, I do a Pilsner. It's nowhere near as good as this. Are you decocting this, Doug?
No, we do a 2-step mash. We start at 148, 149 Fahrenheit, and then go up to 162. But no decoction, just a step heated mash. It's all German malt, Weyermann. I think that makes all the difference, particularly in these more delicate lager flavored beers. But the hops are all American. This has Horizon, which is going extinct, but it's a classic low co-humulone hop that some people think gives you a less harsh bitterness. That's debatable. We don't know. And then we use Liberty, which is sort of a Hallertau-y kind of hop, and Sterling, which is similar to Saaz, but they're all American.
Wow, that's a pretty complex hopping strategy. What is your hopping strategy for this beer?
It's standard 3 additions. One at 70 minutes, one at 20 minutes, and one at 0 minutes. So no dry hopping or anything like that. So, but we do a whirlpool edition, I guess you would call it, or 0 minutes.
And is it just Pilsner malt? Or?
Yeah, Pilsner malt and Cara Pilsner malt, or Dextrin malt, or Cara foam, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, it's way good. I mean, Greg, you're the beer judge. Greg just came from the judging part of the World Beer Cup at Nashville, right? So give us some useful adjectives rather than delicious and smooth and the ones that Steve and I usually use.
I think I'm all judged out, James. No, look, I mean, it's a really well put together beer. I really love that bready structure of the malt. That's why I asked about the decoction. It tastes like it's brought up that real bready character. It could be the 2-step mash might help bring that out. I don't know. We just do a single step for ours. Can I ask more questions? I'm fascinated by the. Is it just the standard Weiermann pills, or are you using the Barker pills, or anything?
Yeah, this is just standard Weiermann pills, and I'm sorry I forgot to mention it's about 5% Vienna malt as well.
Oh, So that's giving it that little bit of slight toast. Like just you put the bread in the toaster for a very short amount of time and pulled it out, and it's a really clever beer. This one, I like it.
That's good on your part to pick that Vienna out. I totally forgot about it, but you saw it or tasted it.
Yeah, Greg. If you ever get tired of being a brewer in New Zealand, you can come and be on our show. Just follow us around.
I want to start that specialty English style brewer you want. So, and I love Chicago, so that'll work.
Our friends and sponsors Desiree and Dave of HighGravityBrew.com have a couple of special offers just for you, listeners of Basic Brewing Radio. And this is the last time I'm going to be able to share these offers with you this month, so make a note. They've just done a refresh of HighGravityBrew.com, and they want your help in running the new site through its paces. From now until the end of May, you can get 15% off ingredients by using the code BasicBrewing15 on HighGravityBrew.com. And just for listeners of the show, you can still save $100 off Warthog controllers when you buy a turnkey Warthog electric system with the code EBC100BB. They're extending that generous offer just for you. And, that's $25 more than our usual discount that I talk about on the show. So try out the even easier-to-use Build Your Own Beer feature on HighGravityBrew.com and use the code BasicBrewing15, all one word, to save 15% off ingredients this month and help test out the new site. I ordered ingredients for the Texas table beer that Chris Colby and I formulated, and I brewed day before yesterday, and it's a breeze. Use the code EBC100BB to save $100 on a Warthog controller as well when you buy a Warthog turnkey system until the end of May, which is coming right up. That's at the new and improved HighGravityBrew.com. That's HighGravityBrew.com. Now, what are some tips? I mean, back when I first started homebrewing, lagering was really intimidating to me because, there were all these rules that you definitely had to follow. You had to ferment at this temperature. You had to pitch this much yeast. You had to, do a diacetyl rest at this amount of time. Is it as hard as we at that time thought that it should be?
Yes and no. I mean, it depends on your definition of hard, I guess. It takes a little bit longer, and you do need some temperature control to get it done right. You can't use quake yeast to make a lager. I'll say that. You can make a beer with Greig yeast, but I wouldn't call it a lager. Anyway, that's a whole other thing.
Just a little soapbox there.
You do need to ferment cold, pitch a little bit more than you're used to, and get plenty of oxygen in there.
Now, how cold are we talking?
This yeast is the Augustiner strain that we get from Brewing Science Institute, and it ferments well at 53 degrees.
Oh, wow.
But apparently you can go up to 60 with it, and we have done that. We've gone even a little higher to do sort of a California Common style before. I won't use the trademark name. I might get sued.
Yeah, somebody might get steamed about that.
Don't take liberties with that.
You keep me anchored. Have you done any taste panels or any tasting, doing different experimentations with different fermentation temperatures? Because, theoretically it could save you a few bucks on refrigeration costs or whatever if you ferment your lagers a little bit warmer.
Yeah, we used to ferment cooler, actually, and we decided that a little warmer, there's some minimal savings on energy costs. It finished faster, and it was still just as good. This is a pretty forgiving lager strain. We do a diacetyl rest as it's right near the end of attenuation. We bring it up to 60 degrees for a couple of days, and then back down, and then lager. It's 28 days for us total. Many people think you need to lager lagers for months at a time, but as a production brewery, we don't have that luxury, and the beer is just fine after 28 days in our case. Healthy pitch, healthy yeast maintenance is the big key there.
So these beers are extremely bright, and does that 28 days, that doesn't include time like in a bright tank, or does it? Or
no, that at the end of the 28 it goes into the bright. Yeah, we do filter our beer, which helps, so we don't sit around waiting for it to drop bright. We run through a so-called DE filter, and that pulls the yeast out. It's a fairly light filtration, and then it's bright and ready for carbonation. And we do artificially carbonate.
So what's the most adventurous that you get here?
As far as beer styles?
Yeah.
We do a Doppelbock. It's our winter seasonal. We do one-off kegs every couple of weeks where we'll add something interesting to an existing beer, and then dose the concentrate into a half barrel, and so we have one half barrel at a time. Right now, it's a hibiscus Pilsner that's on.
So that runs afoul of the Reinheitsgebot.
I know, but we're Americans. And the Germans are always getting sneaky with how they get around Reinheitsgebot. The other way we get adventurous is with the next beer in your middle taster. This is not a lager. I just said we're a lager brewery. Maybe we're more of a southern German brewery. This is our Hefeweizen. It's actually not ours specifically. This is brewed in conjunction with Sipes, Conrad Sipe Brewery, which was a brewery in Chicago that started in the 1860s, lasted until Prohibition. At one time was one of the largest breweries in the U.S. It's a heritage brand, but the reason I was willing to take this on was the person behind Sipes, Lauren Mack, is the great-great-great-great-granddaughter of Conrad Sipe, the founder of Sipes Brewery. And she has a lot of interesting information, not about recipes, unfortunately, about Sipes. And she wanted to bring the brand back, so we're doing that with her. So this is Sipes Bavarian, which is a fairly, as traditional as I can get, Hefeweizen.
And by the way, cheers. We forgot to... Man, is there any... I take it there's no spice in this beer.
No, everything you're tasting is from the yeast. So the big thing about beer, the flavor, comes from the yeast, primarily. And you could take this and put lager yeast and it would be completely different beer. But if you put Hefeweizen yeast in it, all of a sudden you get cloves and bananas and all those other great flavors of a hef. One thing we do with this beer with regard to mash schedule is a ferulic acid rest. So we mash in at 110 degrees Fahrenheit for about 15 minutes before raising the temperature up to 148 or 9, I believe it is, Fahrenheit, and then to 162 again after that. The ferulic acid rest forms the precursors of the phenolic clovey character in the beer, and so it helps accentuate that. It's also a real pain to deal with because when you mash in at 110 degrees, it looks wrong, it smells wrong, and it does not act like a normal mash. The grain particles drop to the bottom and you've got this milky liquid on top. And sometimes even we have an agitator in the mash mixer, we have to still mix it with an ore a little bit. But then we raise the temperature with infusion and steam heat to get it up to saccharification temperature. And all of a sudden at about 145, you'll hear ding, and it will start to mix just fine and even start to change color.
Well, the flavor is I don't know that I've had a similar beer with as complex a spice character as this. I mean, I even get, past the cloves and the banana, I get a little bit of, and somebody might slap me, but I get a little bit of cinnamon in there as well. I mean, do you get that too?
Yeah, I was thinking nutmeg, but yeah, that sort of that spice mix. And again, the structure of this beer is incredible. Like, it's just, it does remind me of something I've had before, and you might like to know that it was at Schneider and Sons in Munich. So it's, if you're trying to nail Southern German Hefeweizen, you've nailed Southern German Hefeweizen.
Well, I would just say that I'm not a big wheat beer guy, and this is a great beer. Meaning, like, as not a wheat beer guy, I could drink a lot of this beer. And for the reason you said, I've had a lot of wheat beers that I felt were out of balance. It's like I'm drinking a banana shake, I'm drinking a clove bomb, I'm drinking I don't know what, but this beer is so complex, but nothing jumps out and dominates my palate. But the grain bill is very substantial. It's very nice. And so it's just got this big bready bottom to it with a lot of spices on it, and that's the kind of girl I like to date.
I had a bready bottom one time, but, a little ointment took care of that. But this is the kind of show we have here. But Doug, this is maybe one of the best Hefeweizens. I think. I'm not an expert. I'm not a certified beer judge like Greg, but this is it's so fun in that the spice character is really good, but it doesn't overwhelm with the banana. It's not like drinking banana bread. But it's just so I'm assuming that fermentation temperature has a lot to do with the character of this beer.
Yeah, the Hef strain, and we're using the Weihenstephan Hefeweizen strain, is very finicky. Unlike our Augustiner lager yeast, the Hef strain, very sensitive to temperature, very sensitive to pitch rate, and very sensitive to oxygen level. And you can kill or overdo that banana flavor depending on how you change those parameters. We were lucky and got the right balance in this one.
I'm curious about the grain bill, the mixture of wheat to malt.
So this is 60% Weyermann wheat malt. I usually use American wheat malt when we use it more as like an adjunct in other beers. But since it is all about the wheat, I went with the German wheat malt, 60%, and then 40% Pilsner malt.
But both Weyermann.
Yes, that's right.
Now, would 60% normally scare 60% wheat normally scare someone who's trying to run something through a louder ton, and does the advanced step mash, does that help out with that?
Well, you would think so, but no. We do add some rice hulls to help with lautering. So just because we're fearful, we have the fear about lauter stuck mashes.
Well, you should try brewing a bag. I found that you don't have to worry so much. You just need to be really strong in your case, I bet.
Yeah, we'll just get the whole brew team to lift it out.
So what's our? I hate to rush on to the third because I'm enjoying talking to you. But what's the third beer that we got here?
This third beer is new for us. This is called Electro Maibach, and it's our new spring seasonal. And it comes to fruition my plan to have a rotating series of Bachs on tap. So we just finished with Doppelbock over the winter. We do a regular Bach with Sipes called Columbia. Sipes Columbia Bach, that just came out too. And now we have Electro Maibach. So this is on the opposite end of light beer, even though it's a lighter beer. And it comes in at 6.5% alcohol. And again, mostly Pilsner malt and a few other things thrown in there. I think I'd have to look it up to get the whole malt bill. It's not that crazy.
Just make it up, Doug.
There's some Carafoam and a little bit of Vienna, if I recall.
Oh, that's really good. It's darker than the other ones. Now, what in your mind differentiates a Maibach or a Bach from, say, a Pilsner or other lagers? I mean, what character are you looking for? If you're sticking to the style guidelines, what are you trying to bring to this beer to tell people that this is not just a, slightly bigger Pilsner or,
Not much. I think of it as being a slightly bigger Helles in a lot of ways, rather than a light Bach beer. So it's all about the malt, and then when it's a higher gravity, it's like a high gravity Helles in a lot of ways. However, I would say along with that comes a higher hop profile. So we do bitter it a little bit heavy so that it balances out. And I've always felt that Maibachs or Helles Bachs should have a solid malt backbone or a solid hop backbone to them compared to other Bachs, which are all big malt bombs. So you get both of those things in here, I think.
Yeah, it's really good. I'm just amazed at how clean the Pilsner, and not that the Hefeweizen wasn't clean, but the yeast character to me is not quote unquote clean. It's delicious, but it's got all the spice. But this beer is just super. I could drink. I'm eyeing people over here with liters of beer, and I'm seeing one of these in my future. I've lost the ability to say intelligent things now. Steve, you talk.
Let me take over saying stupid things. No. So this beer is just this kind of bready, crackeriness to it. That's just wonderful. And wow, I'm with you, James. So far, this is my favorite. I really, really like this beer a lot. And so, congratulations. This is a terrific beer. Clean, solid, bready, crackery. It's everything a beer ought to be, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I can really taste the goat. No, I agree with Steve. I mean, it's just, again, the word I keep coming back to is structure. And all of these beers, they're built with purpose. The malt is there, providing that layer. As you said, that hop structure is there. So you get that nice clean bitterness right down the middle of my tongue. And it makes me want to just keep going back to it. It's so refreshing. And it's, for a Maibach, I always associate them with being a bit sticky. They shouldn't be, but most of the ones that you get are. And this one just isn't. I see a liter of it in my future as well.
Yeah, that sweetness or stickiness is something that I like to avoid. I do find that a lot of Bachs in general, but especially some Maibachs, come across a little too sweet or too thick or something. And I think it's best to try to get that strong flavor without too much body, or sweetness. I agree with you.
Yeah, a lot of the times when I have a beer in the Bock family, I associate that with kind of a melanoidin, kind of a, the Maillard kind of dark. There's a little bit of a dark edge, and I don't get that on this, and I don't know if that's a ding or not, or if you consider that a ding, but this to me is more drinkable than what I traditionally have tasted in sort of in the Bock family.
I think a lot of brewers do use Munich malt even in their Maibock, and that gives more of that melanoidin. I've pulled up the actual grain bill here, so it's Pilsner malt, Vienna malt, Cara Foam, and Cara Red instead of Munich malt. So the Cara Red is a little secret, I guess you could call it a secret, not anymore, secret ingredient. Just a little twist on what you might traditionally do in this beer.
See, I was almost going to go with I'm not saying that was in there, but it reminded me a little bit of like Victory, or just had that little bit of breadiness in there that I really liked. I really like that character in a beer, whether it's British or German, it doesn't matter, but I just like that character in a beer, and this one kind of scratches that itch for me.
So your brewing philosophy from these three beers, solid, drinkable beers. I take it that you haven't used any glitter yet. You haven't made a brute Pilsner. Do you ever get tempted to do something a little wacky and follow a little trend and do a hazy whatever or
Well, we do the hazy. You had it. It's the Hefeweizen, and that's the original hazy. Our Hefeweizen in there. So I don't know. I guess my brewing philosophy has always been about subtlety rather than in your face, and so I was never one to use 300 IBUs of hops or whatever just because to show how strong it is or whatever. But so subtlety and nuance. I think what I learned when I visited Munich for 6 weeks during my Siebel program was all of these breweries that apparently are making the same beer are not. They all taste different, and it's all the subtlety and nuance and what they're in the differences that they do in their brewing. The other philosophy behind my brewing is keep it simple. I don't use 16 different malts and 25 different hops. I don't think you need to. Take a white piece of paper and draw a simple picture on it, and that's the beer.
And that makes more sense for you as a business, right? To not order everything on the list of ingredients from the brewing supplier, right? I mean, you can if you keep your ingredient list simple, that kind of keeps your life more simple from a financial standpoint. I'm a home brewer. I don't know.
That is true. That can make a difference. I think if you're using 6 different kinds of Pilsner malt, that would be inefficient rather than 1 or maybe 2. We do use 6-row Pilsner in one of our beers. It can make somewhat of a money difference, but it's more just I think it has to do with my philosophy of brewing than trying to be economical.
Well, these beers are amazing, and you guys have any other smart and intelligent questions before I bring us to a close?
Well, I am curious. So when you decide to use a particular malt, a Pilsner malt, what makes you decide that you're going to use Weyermann instead of Avantgarde or instead of Briess or whoever it might be? What goes into your thought process to choose a particular malt? And so we'll just say Pilsner at the moment.
We actually started with Canada malt, Pilsner malt, back when we originally started up, and I kept having trouble with DMS in the beer, and I'm not blaming Canada malting for that. I think it was a crop year issue. They just had a lot of the precursor that year, but I switched and started using Best malt, Pilsner malt from Germany, and the DMS problem was gone overnight. but they never had quite that quality that I was chasing. It's a quality malt, but didn't have the character I was chasing. There's a characteristic of German Pilsners that I don't know how you get it. And so then I switched to Weyermann malt, and we were almost there. Now, I need to bring in a German brewer. I need to sneak into a German brewery and learn their secrets to really finally get it. But we're much closer. I just, for these delicate malty, lighter types of lagers, I think a good solid German malt makes it more like you would get there. Now, if that's not your aim, if you're trying for something that's different than that, any malt might be just fine. But yeah, try out different things and see how they taste. There's other malts that might be better. I just haven't played around with them enough yet. Avant-Garde or the Barkey Pills from Weyermann. Who knows?
Yeah, so you mentioned DMS. I mean, that was one of the things in brewing, light lager beers that, you have to, as a home brewer, you have to boil Pilsner malt for 90 minutes, to drive off those DMS precursors. And, there's been some experiments out there on shorter boil times that, depending on probably your malt provider, that may not be as much of an issue as it was in the past. Apparently, you did find it to be an issue with at least one provider. Is DMS or a corny, flavor in your beer? Is that as much of a concern as homebrewers might be worried about?
You do need to take the standard precautions. Boil long to drive it off, not necessarily 90 minutes, and make sure that your kettle is vented and so that the condensate's not dripping back into it. Every professional brewing system's kettle has, it looks like the vessel is closed, but all that condensation that drips back down from the stack is run separately out of the kettle through a specialized drain in the stack because that condensation has DMS in it, and you don't want it back in your beer. So open boil long enough. We do a 75-minute boil, and we're doing 60 back when we originally started, and I increased it because we had that DMS problem, and just stuck with it even after we solved it because it works for us.
So Greg, do you have a drippy stack?
My stack never drips. I fixed that years ago. I do have a comment on the beers, though. Again, they remind me. So you spent 6 weeks in Munich, right? The breads that you get for breakfast every day, the selection of all the different breads, that's what your beers remind me of. They're just different shades, different types of bread, different preparations, and I kind of love that your beer reflects that. It almost makes me feel like I'm in Munich having breakfast. It's cool.
That's awesome. Thanks. And I think one of the things that you're touching on there, you're not talking about hop aromas. We do use hops, but you wouldn't necessarily know it. I don't hate hops, but I've always been more of a malt fan, and I think it shows in our beer.
So there won't be any pineapple pilsners with...
Maybe next week.
Well, these are amazing beers. Any other final advice that you can give? And I'd be glad to talk to you as long as you want to talk. But you're a busy man and you've got an establishment to run. But and you're so kind to host us here today. But any other final advice that you can give to homebrewers who might be intimidated into going into brewing delicious lager beers like the ones that you're brewing here today?
Some age-old advice. Relax. Don't worry. Have a homebrew. The thing that always bugged me about that saying was I hadn't brewed anything yet, and I kept asking, how am I supposed to have a homebrew if I haven't made any homebrew yet?
Therein lies the rub. That's right.
No, I think brewing lagers at home isn't hard. You do, like I said, you need some temperature control, but if you can get it down to 60, maybe you've got a cool basement or some sort of cellar, you can get a good lager. Pay attention to how much yeast you pitch enough yeast, and make sure to get some oxygen in there, and it'll be good.
There you go. And well, I guess one thing you could do is befriend another home brewer, get some of their home brew, then you can relax, don't worry, and have a home brew.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, come to a place like Metropolitan where they host homebrew clubs, and then meet up with a home brewer, have some homebrew and some delicious lagered beers, and then you're on your way.
There you go. That sounds like a great plan.
Doug, you get a bark from the audience, and thank you so much for talking with us, and we certainly enjoyed your beers.
Thank you. I'm glad you're here, and I hope you stick around for a few more.
Oh, okay.
Well, thanks again to Doug, Greg, and Steve. We did stick around and sample a couple more delicious lagers. What a fun place. It was a Friday afternoon, and as you can probably tell, it was packed. A wonderful tasting room right on the river, and I'd love to go back to Metropolitan one day. If you have brewing questions, show suggestions, or just want to say howdy, write to james@basicbrewing.com or just fill out the contact form at basicbrewing.com. And please don't forget to tell us where you're from. Check out our mobile-friendly shop at basicbrewingshop.com. Thanks to everybody supporting us through our Patreon page. Special goodies coming your way. Check that out at patreon.com/basicbrewing. It's all until next time. Until then, thanks for listening, everybody. I'm James Spencer. Production help for Basic Brewing Radio and our website is provided by Kelly Dodson. Basic Brewing Radio is a production of Active Voicing. Talk to you next time, everybody. In the meantime, stay well and stay tuned. So long.